Hello and welcome. I've done it again and wasted my time writing a fanfic. And so for those who wish to read it but don't have the time, or like Nagzz can't read, I shall read it for you. So here we are. The Omelette Master, a Nagzz, Ko and Onigiri fanfic. So guys, we have something special for you today. Ko started with his usual introductions. We've got together with Nagzz and female Nagzz to have an omelette making competition. I'm not feeling our legs, female Nagzz complained, squeaking as she did. Nagzz and Ko joined each other in laughing before Nagzz said hi himself. What's up? So, as you can see in front of you, I've prepared a couple of bowls, pans, butter and of course the eggs. Ko indicated to the kitchen top. The stoves are just to the side there so chat can see. Giri delightfully presented the equipment with her wave of her hands while the chat parked. Just after To's explanation, a donation came in. Nagzz, try not to burn down the kitchen. I'd feel bad for Ko, Brian read, causing a torrent of KW in the chat, and Nagzz to sigh, hanging his head. I'm watching you, Nagzz, Ko warned. What? So, without any further ado, let's get cooking. Giri masterfully started her omelette. She threw her butter into the pan and turned on the heat in one fluid motion. At the same time, she grabbed her 3 eggs and cracked them single-handedly into the pan. Her actions made it seem like she had 4 arms, as her years of cooking and study came into fruition. Meanwhile, Nagzz was struggling with his knob of butter. It slipped between his orange fingers several times before he managed to pick it up and drop it into his pan. He stared at the hob, trying to work out how to work it. Giving up, he randomly turned knobs and eventually brute forced the puzzle. Next, he attempted to break his eggs, one at a time of course. However, his noodle arms couldn't deliver the force needed to break the eggs. Even imagining the egg as a butt to touch didn't help his plight. Nagzz sighed, as he realized he would have to rely on his usual technique. He raised the egg to his nose and lightly tapped the egg against it. The egg split as the razor edge of his nose bridge easily penetrated its shell. Repeating this, he managed to crack all the eggs into its bowl, only sacrificing a small amount of egg white that clung to his nose. KW, it looks like Nagzz after a night with Chadmum, Brian read from a donation, making Nagzz chuckle as his cheeks reddened. Ko burst out in a full-bellied laugh. Huh? Giri asked, looking up from perfectly seasoning her almost finished omelette. Don't worry about it, Ko answered calmly, not wanting Giri to be corrupted by chat. Returning to the cooking, or in Nagzz's case, cooking, Giri whisked the eggs in her pan as they cooked, with such speed and grace you could see the air being trapped into the forming omelette. Once the omelette had a solid base, Giri added some smoked salmon and some cheese to make the omelette a little less salty. While there was still undercooked egg on top of the beautifully fluffy omelette, Giri folded it, encasing the salmon and cheese into a yellow blanket. Meanwhile, Nagzz, having removed the eggshell from his eggs, had begun to whisk them. Learning from experience and taking note of his aching muscles, he used an electric whisk to whip up the eggs. The mixture bubbled and hissed as it hit the well-buttered pan, making Nagzz panic and furiously fiddle with the flame until it was, well, as small as... Giri picked up her plan and let the beautifully golden brown omelette slide onto an awaiting plate. She took a moment to admire her perfect cooking. Breathing in the perfectly harmonized scent of cheese, salmon, herbs, and egg that caused a chorus of gulps from Nagzz, Ko, and Ko's girlfriend, who had been drawn in by the scent. Ko was unable to take his eyes off the omelette, as Giri picked up the plate and walked over to him. She leant forward, presenting the omelette to him, and revealing a little more cleavage than she probably was intending to. Now, of course, Ko is a cultured gentleman, and as such, he couldn't ignore this. However, that day, perhaps due to his girlfriend's presence looking over his shoulder, Chat saw the image of Buddha sitting in the lotus position behind him. He managed the impossible, and didn't even seem to take a glance. Chat, however, Booba. Naggasm, I lost. Nag hands up. Ooh, that's what I've been waiting for.
I thought you were good at cooking, Nagzz remarked. It's burnt, see? All that brown. Looks like I won this.
A short, shocked silence followed. Shut up, Nagzz, Ko replied simply. Looks great. What do you think, chat? Should we wait for Nagzz to finish, or... He looked over to Nagzz's attempt, as it sat there, barely cooking. It looked like this omelette would cook faster under a winter sun. You know what? I don't think I can resist. Itadakimasu, Ko announced, cutting a bite out of the omelette before respectfully placing it upon his tongue. His expression melted into bliss, as the fluffy egg, cheese, and even the salmon fell apart in his mouth. It was perfectly balanced. No ingredients stealing the show, instead complementing each other in a harmony most musicians only manage once in their careers. Seeing this, Nagzz became rightfully jealous. He dove in, grabbing a bite for himself.
What was it you said?
Itadakimasu.
Itadakimasu?
Nagzz butchered, before practically launching the omelette into his mouth.
Not bad,
Nagzz unsuccessfully dismissed, wiping tears of pure culinary joy from his eyes. Alright, Giri's the winner, Ko announced.
You haven't even tried mine yet,
Nagzz whined. You really think you can beat that, Nagzz? Ko asked, looking at him with disbelief.
Well, no, but at least try mine before you give her the title.
Fine, Ko reluctantly agreed. Returning to his cooking, Nagzz wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. He had to follow up after Giri's culinary masterpiece, a pressure that could crush even the greatest of cooks. Taking a deep breath, Nagzz entered his Prof G mode, focusing on his task with admirable but futile determination. He adjusted the flame with incredible precision, trying desperately to make this the greatest omelette of his long life. Copying Giri's technique, he waited for the bottom of the omelette to solidify before laying a blanket of sliced mozzarella on top. Taking a risk, he also added some sliced tomato and lightly drizzled olive oil over the top. While the omelette was still disturbingly yellow, he folded it over and awkwardly slid it onto a plate.
Bon appetit,
Nagzz butchered again, presenting the yellow package to Ko. Well, on appearance alone, you've already lost to Giri, Ko said, mocking Nagzz.
Just take a bite, bro. It's great, I swear.
Both Ko and Giri took a nervous bite. You surprised me, Nagzz, Ko admitted. It's not bad. Yeah, not bad, but you still got a lot to learn, Giri added. It's still a little undercooked, perfectly edible, just needed a bit longer.
Let's go,
Nagzz shouted.
I'll take that.
Well, there we have it, chat. Ko started before being interrupted by a new contender. The monster of a man, fully clad in armor, calmly graced Ko's kitchen with its overwhelmingly chat aura. The chat went wild as they realized who had just entered. Nagzz, Ray 87 is here! He presented 3 blue eggs and pointed to the hob behind him. Yeah, chat seems to know you, so why not? Ko answered, still in awe of Ray's godly presence. Standing over a plate, Ray threw his top off, presenting his beautifully chiseled physique. A body so beautifully muscular, it put the statues of ancient Greece to shame. This was a body so perfect that not even a god could have sculpted it. He showed one of his unusual eggs to chat once again before placing all 3 on his abs. If I'm not mistaken, Ray is using Finana's eggs for his omelette, Brian shouted without a prompt from chat. How is it even possible to make an omelette using them? Before anyone's shock settled, Ray simply flexed, cracking the eggs perfectly and even separating the yolk from the whites. Despite the eggs having no support, they clinged onto his body. What a spectacular display of muscle control. And the choice of using Fnana's eggs is a stroke of genius. Due to their innate horniness, they are refusing to let go of his abs, hence why they have yet to fall, Brian explained yet again, stunned by what his TTS soul could feel through the screen. Ray calmly picked up 2 bowls and held them below his abs. With another flex, he launched the yolks into one bowl and the whites into another. As he did, you could hear a faint "ah" coming from the eggs. He placed both bowls on the table and grabbed a pinch of salt, which he sprinkled into the egg whites. Then placed his open hand into the bowl and clenched his fist, whisking up the egg whites to a perfectly frothy mix, to the sound of the eggs' thirsty cries. After adding the egg yolks, he repeated his actions, leaving him with the perfect start for his omelette. Lifting up a steel bicep, he tensed, before pouring the mixture upon it. It cried out in delight, with sizzles and pops as it began to cook on his arm. Is he doing what I think he's doing? Brian exclaimed to a stunned and silent chat. He's flexing his bicep so fast that it's creating enough friction to cook the omelette as it is. Ray stretched out his arm, allowing the exhausted omelette to slide off and fold itself onto the plate. His eyes glinted as he finished off the omelette with a hot and steamy layer, one only a Giga Chad like Ray 87 could pull off. At that moment, all of Chat's desires, wishes and problems melted away, absorbed by the incredible moment created by this ethereal monster of a man. He placed the plate before the stunned Co, nodded, then waved as he left, returning to whatever otherworldly plane he exists in. As soon as the door closed, Chat went wild. I was here, Nag hands up. I want your puppies. Arf, arf, arf. Yes, Bao was in chat, and many, many other thirsty and astounded messages filled the chat in a speed never witnessed in the history of the internet. What was that about? Giri asked, somehow completely and utterly unaffected by Ray 87's presence. I'm amazed, but I'm not sure I want to eat this omelette, Ko said, realizing that Ray had basically had the omelette all over his beautiful body. I will, his girlfriend jumped in hungrily, stuffing a bite into her mouth. She was stunned, paralyzed by the incredible taste of this dish. Tears flowed down her face as all the pains and strife she'd ever faced left her. Shocked by her reaction, Ko looked at the omelette, only to find his body had reacted on reflex and had already cut off a large bite, about to be placed in his agape mouth. Seconds later, Ko finished the rest of the omelette, literally glowing thanks to the divine meal. Bray 87 is the winner, Ko declared. Later that day, as Giri returned home, she was met by Onibro, uncharacteristically shuffling about in the back of one of their cupboards. What are you up to? She asked innocently. Nothing, just cleaning up a little, he replied after jumping a little. Okay, Giri dismissed. Was that cupboard always that deep? She thought to herself as she headed into her room. Thank you for listening. The reason why I decided to write this is because Nagzz said that golden brown omelettes were overcooked. If you did actually enjoy this for some ungodly reason, I also do have a book available on Amazon by the name of Sparks and Bullets, which you can get for as cheap as I could make it. So if you're interested in me actually trying and actually doing a good job at writing something, then please do check it out. Other than that, well, we've got my other fanfic, which will be probably pop up on the screen in the YouTube video, and some other writing stuff. Again, I'll probably put the players thingy up as well. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Have a great day.